Hello, everybody. Welcome on back to Fantasy Football Futures. I'm Tyler,
I'm Tim.
and today's episode we'll be giving our top 10 fantasy football running back rankings for this upcoming season. But before we do that, Tim, let's dive into some news. Really, nothing too crazy, but they did come out with a verdict that Deshaun Watson is going to be suspended for just 11 games this year. So I think pretty much fancy wise, it's somebody you're going to stay away from. It might be a late ad before he comes back, but I'm surprised he's actually they gave him 11. They didn't just stick to the whole season.
Yeah, I was actually pretty surprising not getting the full season. There's just fantasy wise, that's late, almost right before the playoffs start. So if you need a quarterback, it is questionable. But like from just like a football, just like a person standpoint, pretty bad. Like I understand if you just don't want to draft him at all and just
Yeah.
don't even want to like take a chance on him. His first game back against the Texans, I think in week 13 because of their bye during that time. So I don't know. I'm surprised it's not the full season. Should have been the full season. It's got the $5 million, but it's going to some charity, and it's sad. He's
It's
saying
just
that he's
dirty
innocent.
money.
Yep, he's innocent. He's going to have suspension, and they're not going to worry about this anymore.
I know. It's just I don't know. It blows my mind that the NFL did this. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of backlash still, but
Yeah,
I mean, fantasy football wise, I don't think it has too much of an effect on people. Like unless it comes late
yeah,
in the season and you want to pick them up and do that. So that's there. And then like we talked about with um, Seattle, Kenneth Walker hernia surgery. He should be back, but I know Pete Carroll had said he's not going to push him to come back early and whatever. But I know Rashad Penny is a starter there, but that's just something to keep an eye out, see how that situation plays out. And the big one is that Tom Brady's return has been questioned if when it's going to be and how long it's going to be. And so that's something I think if you're a fancy person looking at Mike Evans and the Buccaneers wide receivers, this is huge news that you definitely got to track because if he's not playing, that changes the whole outlook on those players on that team, I think.
yeah. I agree with that. It just doesn't. It's something to look forward to. You're not getting really much from that, and just kind of waiting and seeing. It sounds like he should be back even before the season starts, but
Yeah.
you really don't know. Like he's supposed to be back for their next preseason game. Now it's kind of being thrown up in the air. So
Yeah.
it's
It's
something
just,
definitely something because if he's not there, like when you're looking at Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Fournette, even it's something that's going to affect
yeah.
all the players on the Bucks.
Yeah. 100%. It changes the whole dynamic because, I mean, who is Blaine Gabbert still their backup quarterback?
I think so. I honestly don't know.
So it's everything that's crazy. And then the last thing here is just Michael Gallup is running routes again and looking to
Mhm.
come back. So Cowboys fans, that's huge. And for wide receiver effect with the Cowboys, I don't think it'll change much for Ertz or um, CD, but it's just I don't know. It's something to keep an eye out because I know a lot of people have been high on him coming back because he showed a lot of spark last year, and that's the reason why they felt comfortable getting rid of Cooper. So him coming back will be big. So he's a late round selection you can hold on to, and I'm sure he won't play week one, but week 2 or 3, it looks like it's very capable of happening.
Yeah, it's kind of up in the air, and that's why I'm kind of big on CeeDee Lamb because even if Gallup does play 2 week 3, how much is he going to contribute to the offense? Is he only going to be on certain plays?
Yeah,
Is he going to be fully healthy, or is it? I feel like you just got to slowly get into that because you don't want him to get hurt anymore. So okay, he comes back week 2, week 3. He's probably not 100% to what week 6, week 7
yeah,
in
probably.
the fully in that offense and finally getting the game condition. So it's something to keep a look at for sure.
Yeah. So that's all the news that we have right now. So let's go ahead and jump into here our top 10 wide receiver, our running back rankings to wide receiver last week. If you haven't seen that, go check it out on our YouTube channel. But with this, I feel like there's a big consensus going at number one
Yeah.
overall. And then, especially at this running back position with Jonathan Taylor coming off the year he had last year. And then pretty much the O line is still as dominant as they were. They upgrade at quarterback, I think, with Matt Ryan. The only question here is, could you argue that in full PPR, you should take a chance on a guy like Eckler or McCaffrey because of the receiving aspect of their game, which Taylor doesn't have?
Uh, I think that's something you can definitely think about, but from the backfield, he had 51 targets last year. Not like if Chris McCaffrey's healthy, if
Yeah.
Eckler's healthy, it's not the same amount of targets. But you also had to think about the quarterback. They had Carson Wentz last year, and also coming into last season. I know me and you discussed it last year. You weren't very high on Taylor because of the committee they went with. Anytime it
Yeah.
was passing, it went to Hines. I think that slowly started to go to Taylor where you needed him to be on the field no matter what.
Yep.
And I can see him having more than 51 targets this year, maybe around like the 60 to 70 range. Probably still not the same as
No.
Christian or Eckler, but just what he brings to the field and the domination and just the consistency that he brings, I think that makes him the number one running back in this core.
That's what you look at that division they play in too, like
Yeah.
it's not a great run stop defense, and I think that plays a big factor in why I would also put him in the position to be the number one. I just think with an upgrade there, they have wide receivers that are actually gonna move the ball. They're gonna spread the field out a lot more. And I think that's
Mhm.
only gonna open lanes up for him. Because last year we saw a lot of packed boxes towards the end of the year, daring Wentz to, okay, we're gonna have you beat us instead of Jonathan Taylor. So I think we're gonna see the ball be moved around a lot more, and I think Taylor is gonna have that increase. I know people are worried that his workload's gonna go down, which I'm sure it will, but
Mhm.
I don't see why his touchdowns. I think his touchdowns will continue to go up because he is that main, like you said, that main feature goal line back, and he's their 1-2 for sure, and going to be on the field for a lot of third downs as well. So
Yeah.
I think Jonathan Taylor's it's you got to take him because of what he did last year, and I always know like the guy who everyone talks about, Chris McCaffrey. He just sits on your mind because you know what he's capable of if he's fully healthy.
Yeah, I think what really separates it, if you go look at 2021, Jonathan Taylor played in all 17 games
Yeah.
and I think you go look at McCaffrey, you go look at Eckler. Henry's usually been that back, like that kind of consistency until
Yep.
last year. But like as a running back, you're playing most of the games. Like that's really something that kind of just separates, even if maybe you're not getting the same reception and targets, those 2 to 3 game difference, that might be between you barely making playoffs or you a 1 and 2 seed and you
Yeah.
get an easy path to the championship.
And that's what, yeah, I just don't, he's a big body. I don't see him really getting hurt that easily. So I feel like he's like a Henry to where it's going to take something weird to come up and keep him out of the season. So I like
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor at 1 here. There's a reason why he's going 1-1, and I don't see why you would change that across the board, no matter PPR, non PPR.
Yeah.
So I agree, Jonathan Taylor here. Number 2 wise, I have CMC.
Mhm.
And that's solely because of what McCaffrey's fully capable of doing in the passing game. And running the ball wise, he's shown he's a great runner as well. But the way he can affect the game receiving the ball and put up fancy points is almost Cooper Kupp esque, where it's like, every Sunday you're getting 20 at least from McCaffrey, which is crazy. So that's why I think he's got to be that number 2 spot.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, he wins you championships.
Uh
Like
huh.
we saw firsthand in our leagues and everything. 2019 played 16 games fully healthy, had 142 targets.
Yeah.
It's a lot of targets from running back. And if he can stay with that consistency, like he might, he only played 7 games last year, had 41 targets. So if he plays the whole season, that gets him to 100 targets. You get 100 targets plus like the running from the running back. He's going to win you leagues. He'll be
Yep.
top 3 easily at running back. So
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people that are scared out there that are just like, oh, he's been injured the past 2 years, can't take that chance on him. I think if he stays healthy, the positive that you get out of him over trumps the negative if he gets hurt.
Yeah,
I think
I
you
agree.
just have to take that chance.
That's what I think. I think the negative of, oh, well, he's injury prone. Well, you're not going to pick. It's always that thought. Well, if I don't take it, he's going to be healthy for 17 games, and
Mhm,
I'm going to look stupid because I picked somebody else over McCaffrey. And I think that's why you have to take what he's proven he can do in a full season,
mhm.
even if you can get 14 games out of him. Like, those are the numbers he's going to put up are just going to be too good to pass on. So that's why I like McCaffrey at number two. I just think, especially full PPR, he's a PPR machine. So I like McCaffrey at two, and there's no reason why you should stray away from him just because of the injury thing. Like, every one of these running backs can get injured at any
Yep.
second. It is what it is. So that's a consensus two for us as well. Number three, I have Derrick Henry. Um, do you who and I just have him there because of, like you said, he's been that workhorse. I know people always say, well, him running he doesn't catch the ball, he doesn't do this. Well, we've said that the last 4 years, minus last year, he's still continually top five, top four,
Mhm.
the best back in the NFL. He's just a different build that I don't know. It's like a creative player. You put the thing all the way to as tall as it can go. So to me, it's just I think you can't count Derrick Henry out, and that's why I like Derrick Henry at three. He's just proven that he belongs in the top three.
Yep. So actually, I have Derrick Henry at number 4, and I have Eckler at number 3. When it comes to PPR, especially with fantasy football and how it's progressing, a lot of people are going more to PPR. And what this guy does one, this from catching the balls and the targets, plus the touchdowns. He has many touchdowns as Jonathan Taylor did last
Yeah,
year at 8 receiving, 12 rushing. So that means when it's the goal line, they're not bringing another running back. It's Eckler that's getting the ball. If that's running the ball, if that's the screen pass, if that's the wheel route or anything, he's getting open. He's getting the ball, and I think that itself makes the difference between him and Henry. I think they're very close because I think Henry he got hurt last year, but Henry's usually been very consistent. I can see him playing a bit pretty full season. Eckler played 16 games last year as well. So if you go to compare for Henry to get the Eckler numbers, Henry has to run for 18 to 2,000 yards just because he doesn't catch the ball. And so I think that's what makes the difference between those two, between 3 and 4. If I end up with one of them, I'm completely happy. I'm okay with that. But that's why I picked Eckler over Henry at 3. And then I have Henry at 4. And just because of the beast he is, he did lose AJ Brown. So there's maybe more players in the box this year because they don't have that wide receiver presence of being able to where they can do the fake to him and then over the top to AJ Brown. Now it's all on Derrick Henry until someone else on that Titans team really opens it up.
like I have Eckler at four, so we just have him switch. But
Yeah.
to me, it's just Eckler has you can make the same argument with McCaffrey. It's just like he's been injured, he's done this. It's something you got to worry about. But I just think the offense that the Chargers run are going to kind of see a lot more running backs come into the game to kind of take some of it off of Eckler. I know Eckler's their guy, and that's who they want. But there's a lot of talk with Isaiah Spiller possibly coming in, maybe taking away some of those goal line
Hmm.
touches that we've seen Eckler have, and that being a problem. So that to me is just I don't see him putting up the same touchdown numbers, which he's fully capable of doing again if he like it's capable of happening. But I just think it's Derrick Henry has proven without being a receiving back that he should be trusted to be in the top three. And I think he was a 2,000-yard rusher 2 years ago. He just breaks big runs. He's going to score touchdowns, and without AJ Brown, you might see his touchdown numbers bump up because they're going to
Hmm.
utilize him more in the goal line. So to me, that's where I put him there. I think Austin Eckler's still very good. Like you said, any of these top four, like if they fell to me, I'd be very happy to have them. It's just for me with Eckler, I worry the touchdown numbers if they will drop, which can be a big factor, and then kind of what's this offense going to look like? Like second year under their head coach, and Isaiah Spiller being a big draft pick that they picked up and possibly being an option that takes away some of his red zone touches. So that's why I put Eckler at 4 and then Henry at 3.
Yeah, I agree. Spiller can definitely, if you're looking at fantasy wise, he's definitely, if you get Eckler, you need to go get Spiller. I think that's something you need to have that handcuff, because if Eckler's out, there's no one behind Spiller. Like, it's his team. Like,
Yeah.
or his backfield at least. And also, I just think, like, when we start talking about betting and everything, I think this Chargers offense might be the best in the AFC. I know you got the Bills and you have the Chiefs in the same division. You're talking about a couple other teams. They with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, if he stays healthy, Justin Herbert has a chance to win MVP this year. I think he's
That's
second and third in odds. So this Chargers team, this might be their best year yet to get and win the division and get as far as they can. I think they need Eckler to be a part of that rotation and just scoring touchdowns and being the best he can. So I think if they're going to be good, Eckler's got to be good, and that will bring him into the top 3.
Yeah, that's right. So it's pretty much just kind of you pick and choose what you want.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's when you're gonna go, you can't go wrong really with either one. I think
if I
both
get
gonna do
get
whatever,
either
so,
one, I am perfectly fine. I am
Yeah.
very happy.
That's what. And then number 5, I actually kind of rearranged mine from earlier. I put Dalvin Cook here at 5, and that's solely because of the fact of the new OC in Minnesota. And I think they play in one of the weaker divisions with running the ball, running defenses. The Bears running defense is not good. With they lost a bunch of players. Raekwon Smith isn't playing. Lions, I think they're getting better. They're going in the right direction, but that still to me is going to be a problem. And then Green Bay, like I just think Dalvin Cook's going to have more opportunities to run the ball, and then he's also shown that he can be a receiving back as well. So I think that's why you're going to put him at 5. I know the injury thing he comes up with most of these guys, but I think Dalvin Cook's good enough. He scored, I think, like 5 touchdowns last year. That number is going to go up significantly. I might have even been like 3. It's going to go up significantly. So that's why I put Dalvin Cook at 5, because I think his receiving numbers are going to go up as well as those red touchdown numbers too.
Yeah. So for wide receivers, I felt like you could go top 8. We're very good. And then after 8, it was kind of a little bit of a drop off where you go 9 to 12.
Yeah.
From 5 to 10 for running backs, you can pick one out of the hat, and I'd be perfectly fine putting them at number 5. I actually have Dalvin Cook at number 5 also, but when I go through my list, there was an opportunity where I had that running back at number 5. Like, it's when we go through it, it's very close between 5 and 10.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these guys are in great opportunities, and I think Dalvin Cook's in one of them. Like you said, you got a new coach now that's more offensive motivated, and they have a defense that still is not good in Minnesota, but you also have a division that is not very strong right now. I think Minnesota sees that, and with the offense compared to all the other offenses, besides I know Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers, you got a complete offense, and I think this is where they're trying to make the most of it. So if Dalvin Cook could stay healthy, I think he's going to be a very, very big part of this offense, scoring more than the 4 or 5 touchdowns he had last year. I know you still have Jefferson on that team. Everyone's focused on him. You have Thielen that's a little bit older. I think when you get into the red zone where we've seen Thielen and Jefferson get some touchdowns, I think Cook gets the touchdowns this year. I think he's going to get about that 10-12 mark, and I think that's what leans him in the 5 spot for the running back. So I agree with you in this spot.
I think with the passing game that they're going to run, I think it only helps Cook. So that's why I'm putting him there, just because of the fact of what they're going to do offensively is going to be so different than what they have been. And Cook is able to do pretty much, he's a 3-down back. I know Alexander Madison's very good, but Cook is their guy.
Yeah.
And they're going to ride him out. So that's why I think Cook's there. And then looking at the next guy, I think he has all potential to kind of be like Dalvin Cook a couple of years ago, breaking out when 3rd year in the league. DeAndre Swift is who I'm looking at for 6. I think he easily has a chance to be one of the breakout ones with a young Lions team with Jared Goff. I think they're going to utilize him. I know Jamal Williams was brought in, but this is DeAndre Swift's team. And after what he was doing last year, they're going to put all pressure on him. You're going to be our 3-down back. They're going to make him want to be that. I think receiving the ball wise, he's just as capable of every other running back, and running the football wise, he's going to be very good. And I know, just like with Hard Knocks, watching that, the Lions, they're going to want to run the football, and I think it's all going to start and end with DeAndre Swift. So that's why I'm putting here at 6, because I think he's going to take a huge step this year into kind of finally fitting that mold in what they've wanted. It's taken 3 years, but I think it's time, and he's easily one of the top ones this year.
Yeah, so Swift is down on my list a little bit just because you think he's going to take the next step. I think there's still the Lions offense isn't going to be that great. I know St. Brown for the receiver for fantasy kind of took over, and Swift had a lot in the receiving game. But if you look at like rushing, he only had one game with over 15 attempts, and that was in week 10 when he had 33, which is crazy. And after that, I didn't have more than 15. And then there's always an injury aspect of the Swift, and so that kind of makes me a little bit worried and push him down on my list. I love Swift. I think he's a great running back. If the Lions want to be successful at all, it has to go through Swift. He's the best player on that team. It's just when it comes down to it, it's the Lions for me. I know I like the Lions. I think they're heading the right direction. Dan Campbell's going to be good for this team, but you also need to start looking at a different quarterback. I think Jared Goff is not a good NFL quarterback, starting quarterback in this league. And so I think if you start crowding the box, because after week 10, he only had 5 targets after week 10 for each game. He did miss a few in between. It's just you started to really see, even in week 8, you started to really see the receiving catches and those touchdowns falling off. He didn't have a touchdown since week 7 for receiving. So they started to change it up a bit. It might be because he was injured at the end of the season. And so that's kind of why he's pushed back my list. I think he's a great talent. So if he's still on the field, I think he's going to be good. But I just see the Lions maybe mixing it up a little bit. So he's on my list at 8, and number 6 for me. We're on number 6, right?
Yeah.
I have Joe Mixon for the Bengals. I've been a lot higher on Joe Mixon than you have been in the past, and I think you can kind of compare him and Swift to the same where they have the injury.
Yeah.
The kind of like always something's going on. They'll miss 2 to 3 games, but I just think when it comes to rushing, when it comes to targets and receiving, I think Joe Mixon is very consistent about that. He did play 16 games last year, only missed 1, which was the last game. And so that was really nice to see out of him, because the year before was only 6 games that he played. So I think the Bengals just went to the Super Bowl. They're going to be wanting that. No one's really talking about the Bengals, all about the Bills, Chiefs, Chargers. And I think the Bengals are hungry, and I think it's going to have to be evolved around Joe Mixon. So I think that's what running back for me, number 6 is Joe Mixon.
And that's what with Swift, I just think looking at with last year, he's only second year coming in. So I think they didn't want to put all of it on him, where I think this year they're going to finally take that step, and it's going to be, we want to see Swift take that step. And with Mixon, like you said, I have him at 7 on mine. I think people are talking about the Bengals because of what they did last year. Everybody loves Jamar. T. Higgins is rising quickly up people's draft boards. Everybody loves Joe Burrow. The only thing that worries me about Mixon is what kind of offense they're going to be. Are they going to be too much where they're throwing the ball around because they have all these weapons on the outside? But I think Joe Mixon is a very good running back. He is the 3-down back. Without Giovanni Bernard, it's all Joe Mixon. So he's going to get every look on the ground. Like, he was averaging pretty much 18 plus carries a game for a long time. And I think that you're going to see that again. And it's like you said, it really comes down to kind of what kind of year can he have? Can he repeat the 13 touchdowns through the ground that he had last year and stay healthy? And that's where I just kind of get a little lost on Joe Mixon. It's just his injuries that he's had. but I think he can easily be a top 10 back again. And it's just the fact that I just don't know kind of what that offense will look like and how much they're going to utilize Chase and Higgins and Boyd going in the future with Burrow, because those two are definitely the future, and Mixon is the undercarrier for that. But I like Mixon at 7. I think he's very capable of being easily, he can slide his way in the top 5 if he continues to do what he was doing last year with that workload that he's getting.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's gonna be he's a fun guy to watch with his Bengals because you do have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So that might actually help him out just a little bit because everyone's
Yeah.
focused on them now. And if you have Joe Burrow healthy back there, like he knows how to give these guys the ball. Joe Mixon, his targets for receiving was pretty inconsistent though. He'll go a couple games with 6-5 targets. You're like, oh, he's catching the ball in the backfield. Then he goes a few with just one target. And
Yeah.
it can be and kind of scary a little bit, but
I just don't think their offense is built to be a receiving, like their running back isn't supposed to be a receiving back. Like he's more of a blocker, step up, because they're taking shots. That's what they're going to do. T. Higgins is, arguably he could be number 1 on a bunch of other teams. So I think that's what takes away from that, is this offense isn't really designed like McCaffrey's is. We're going to dump it off to him and we're going to let him make plays, where I think Joe Mixon's is we're going to run him 30 times and he's going to score 2 touchdowns, hopefully, or 1 touchdown, and hopefully he's at 90 plus yards for that game. So that's kind of where I think those two differ. And that offensive scheme is just a little bit different. And that's why his receiving is so inconsistent. And that's where, like, it's just, you're going to take it, like, when you get the receiving yards, you're going to like it, but you can't expect it, I think, with Mixon in this offense.
What I did like was when the Bengals were in the red zone, Joe Mixon was on the field all the time.
Yeah.
And
they don't have anybody else, so
they don't have anyone else.
And I think,
yeah, so that's because the 13 rushing touchdowns, that's definitely something that if you draft Joe Mixon, that's very, very happy about. Like, you're not worried about, like we talked about Eckler this year, if Isaiah Spiller starts coming in the red zone more, you just don't really see that happening with the Bengals. That's going to be Joe Mixon's field.
Yeah, and that's what, like, and they're going to spread the ball out. They can do things now on the goal line with Chase and Higgins that are going to make people want to spread out, and that leaves more running lanes open. So Mixon could easily find his way in the top 5 like he did last year. And then it's just what's that offense going to look like this year, and how much of his touchdowns can he repeat that? Because 13's a lot, so can he repeat that again? So that's where I have him at 7, and I know you had Swift at 8. So who's your 7 then?
My 7 is going with Najee. I think this year the Steelers. I'm trying to put this. The Steelers are not going to be that good this year. They're kind of in between quarterbacks right now. I think Pickett is the quarterback that they're wanting to keep, but I think they're wanting to have him behind Trubisky this year and Rudolph even. I think the workload you get out of Najee, I think, is hard to pass up on, especially if he stays healthy. That's another question for a different day, if you think he's going to be able to have the same workload as he did last year. And I've read reports where they're trying not to have that happen because he got the ball so much. But from just last year and just what he was able to do on the field, of not even just running the ball, just the dump offs to him, the targets that he got for running back was incredible. 94 targets, 74 receptions, had 300 attempts with 1,200 yards rushing. The workload puts him at number 7 for me because he's getting the ball. You know that an inexperienced quarterback that's not as good, they're going to go to the running back. And I think that's where Najee comes into play. And I think that's where he ends up at number 7 for me.
Najee, I think, is going to get the same workload. I know they don't want to do that, but the only thing that worries me is, like you said, last year you had Big Ben, who really struggled, and he wasn't throwing the ball downfield at all. Where I think this year, if Mitch is the starter, I think we'll see that change. I think running the ball wise, we're going to see the same type of performance from Najee. I just worry the offensive line isn't very good, and that's the one thing that strays me away from Najee. He's still in my top 10, but I just don't. I have some other guys ahead of him because of where he is with that offensive line and who his quarterback's going to be, and it's just something you got to keep an eye out for. I just don't think he's going to get that same type of receiving share that he had this year, especially with Pickens, Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Freiermuth. I think with all these guys on the outside, and the OC is going to try to get the ball out quick to them. Playmakers do their thing, and I think we just see we'll see his receiving yards drop and his targets drop a little bit this year. I think we'll see more of a focus on the run game with him. But I like Najee a lot. What he did last year was great, but I just have him at 10, but I don't have him at 7.
Yeah, just looking at the workload. So he had in my top 10, second most attempts with 307 rushing attempts, and then targets tied for first with Eckler at running back with 94 last year. So he's not going to do that, but hopefully their offensive line got a little bit better. Their team got a little bit better with not having Big Ben there. And so I think he's a stud. I think he's going to be good. But like you said, offensive line still questionable. And it could be pretty interesting to see what the workload he gets, because he was on the field a lot last year and he had the ball a lot. And so it kind of can scare you away. So I understand you not wanting to go with him number 7 or anything like that.
Yeah, that's why it just worries me a little bit just with who he has there and everything. So it's something to keep an eye out for, but he's fully capable of doing everything again. So Najee Harris that was your 8, right?
That was my 7, and then
7,
I had
and your 8 was Swift. Okay.
Swift,
So
yep.
then we will go ahead and jump to my 8th pick, which I have Alvin Kamara at 8. I just think after no suspension, everything, his ADP is rising again. Just based on what we've seen in the past, even last year, he kind of had an off year with the Jameis Winston going out, Taysom Hill being the quarterback back there. He still finished top 10, number 8 in PPR. I don't see why that'll be any different this year. He only had 4 touchdowns last year, rushing touchdowns. So I think he's fully capable of repeating what we saw kind of 2 years ago when he finished as a running back 2 in PPR. So I like Kamara at 8 just because of the fact that they're going to use him in the passing game. He's going to be utilized in the run game because I think he's one of the better runners in the NFL. It always looks like he's just waiting and then he just finds a hole and he bursts through it. So I like Kamara at 8 because I think the workload's going to be there. His rushing touchdowns, I think, are going to climb this year because Taysom Hill and Sean Payton is gone. So that love story with Taysom Hill's gone. And I think we're going to see Alvin Kamara's rushing touchdowns jump up. And then I think his receiving work's going to continue to go up. And with Jameis back there, I think it only helps him instead of where we saw last year. He kind of took a hit when Jameis wasn't in there. So that's why I have Kamara at 8 here.
Yeah, so I actually have Kamara at 9 after Swift. And I agree with everything you're saying. I think the workload is going to be there. The rushing touchdowns going to be higher. The reason why I have him at 9 is just, I think, a lot to do with like the suspension. There's going to be that distraction back there, even if he doesn't get suspended. That distraction can lead onto the field. Sometimes you've seen it with like other players, and so he might have a little bit of a slower start. And I don't know, just something about him. Just for some reason, I put him at number 9 because he's been a great running back through his career, for especially fantasy targets, attempts. Like he always gets the job done. I think the rushing touchdowns scare me a little bit, but like you said, without Taysom Hill there, what's this offense going to look like when it comes to the red zone without Sean Payton? And so, is it going to be where it evolves all around Alvin Kamara, or are they going to try to throw the ball a bit more with Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, since they got a good wide receivers now, like you didn't see last year? So it should be pretty interesting. I like him at 9, but if you're like, oh, he's going to be a top 5 running back, it's hard for me to not say he will, just because of the talent he has and what he's been able to bring to this Saints offense the past few years.
And that's what he finished top 8, number 8 last year, and that's with 4 missed games too. And with Jameis back there, I think it's only going to help. He's been practicing all off season and training camp, so I don't think he'll really miss a beat much with everything. And I think with the suspension kind of being on pause, it's only going to help him. So that's why I have him at 8. I almost put him at 7 above Mixon because I just think Kamara is going to be one that people are sleeping on. They're all like, "Oh, this is going to happen. He's not going to be the same without Shaw Payton." But I think the new OC is going to they know that the best way to get Jameis comfortable is hitting quick short passes early and getting that to Kamara. So that's why I put him there. I think we're going to see those numbers be the same or even kind of go up a little bit with the receptions. But I think his workload running the ball is going to be the same too. So that's why I have him there. And I expect him to at least probably have 8 touchdowns rushing this year and then probably 5 or 4 with receiving. So that's why I like Kamara there. So that's my 8. My 9. So you had him at 9. My 9 is actually going to be Saquon Barkley. And this one's a little different. I just think with Brian Dable going over there, I know Daniel Jones is an atrocious quarterback, and that's the one thing that worries me about putting him up there. In the injuries that he's had in the past, I just think Barkley has a potential to kind of be a workhorse for this team where we're gonna see a lot of carries and then he's gonna have a lot of work out of the backfield too. So that's why I put him at 9. I know you gotta worry just because Daniel Jones is not good. Like this is his last year in New York and they're gonna be moving on to somebody else. So I just think the addition of Dable is only gonna help Barkley, and I think that's why we're gonna see a big bump in this game this year.
Yeah, I can see that because I feel like if Barkley doesn't do this year, everyone's kind of out on him. Like if he
Yeah,
doesn't finish in the top 15, top 10, I feel like everyone's like, well, that experiment didn't go well. Like, oh darn, he like got hurt with injury. So I think this is a big year for him. This is for him to get paid like after this because this his 5th year
I
or is his
believe
4th
he's
year?
only 25. This is gonna be his 5th year, or
5th year.
5th
So
year.
yeah, after this, who knows if he's going to be on the Giants? So he needs to get a contract, get a good paycheck, and he's not going to be the top paid running back just because of the injuries. But if he has himself a great season, he can kind of pick where he wants to go next year, and I think that's going to be good for him. I think that's what he's going to be playing for. Players that are playing for that contract, usually that's their best season or one of their best seasons. And if he stays healthy, there should be no reason why Saquon Barkley doesn't finish in the top 10. The talent wise coming out of Penn State he was top 5 pick, top 10 pick, and everyone it was high on him. He just ran into injuries, and that sucks. And this Giants team just looks like to not be good again in a bad division. So
That's
someone's got to be good for that Giants team, and someone's going to have to get the ball, and it's going to be Saquon. So I agree. I think when I'm at my number 10 and Saquon was right there. I have Saquon actually at 11, but just because of the injury aspect and just that he hasn't brought anything to the field for fantasy wise, so it's hard for me to put there. But if it's going to be any year, it's this year, and I hope he does. Hopefully he gets paid, and hopefully he proves me wrong, and he can finish up because when he's 100% healthy, just athletic wise, just looking at him, one of the best
yeah.
athletic running backs in the NFL. So I can
That's
see
what
why you put him at number 9.
that's what like we talk. Their division just isn't the greatest against the run. I know the Eagles will be good against run; they always are. But I just think if you're going to take a chance on somebody that can't, maybe I don't. We're not going to see the 13. I think it was 1,300-yard season that he had his rookie year. But I think we'll see something similar to the next year where he finished around top 10. And I think it's going to be like 1,100 yards rushing. And I think we're going to see a lot more targets this way this year than we have in the past. And if
Yeah.
he stays healthy, it's just he's fully capable of being a guy that can change everything. So I like Barkley. I like Brian Dable from the Bills. So I think it's a good mesh, and I'd be interested to see like if Daniel Jones isn't the guy and they somehow like I would love to see Jimmy G go there because I think that would change the whole outlook of that offense. So but yeah, Barkley's my 9, and then round out my 10 was Najee. So your last one at 10 is
So my 10 is kind of people are going back and forth. I've read some people thinking that this is going to be one of his best seasons. People are done with this running back. I'm actually going with Zeke from the Cowboys at number 10. Uh a lot of like with the Cowboys, was after signing that contract, Zeke has kind of gone downhill. His yards per game receiving has gone down since 2018, and some people are like, oh, it's not going to get any better. His targets, his rushing attempts have all gone down. Tony Pollard's have been more a part of this running backfield than Zeke has. But after all that being said, he was number 7 running back in PPR last year.
Well, that like you said, we on the one a while ago, like when we did our mock, he's had one season where he hasn't finished in top 10 in PPR. So, like, I know people are down on him, but like you said, I think this is gonna be a year where he's gonna stay around. Like, he's gonna stay in that 10 range no matter what. So, to me, that's why you got to keep him there.
And
I think it's tough keeping him out, but yeah.
Yeah, and him and Dak have a really good chemistry going on. And I think between that and they losing wide receivers and all you have is CeeDee Lamb, like someone on that offense to step up if they want to, because a lot of people are starting to move on the Eagles winning this division. And the Cowboys want to win this division. Zeke's got to be a part of that. And I just don't see how he has a worse season than he did last year when he finished number 7. And he even had 12 touchdowns, 10. Like when it comes to the red zone, he's on there, had 1,000 yards rushing. Targets have gone down since like 2008, had 2018 had 95 and then kept going down. But he's still 27 years old. I think there's a lot of talk going on. I think Zeke's going to try to prove him wrong. So I feel like this is the year and he's going to finish in the top 10 again. I'll take a bad Zeke season when he finishes 9 or 10 in PPR.
Well, that's like 2020. He has Ben DiNucci and Andy Dalton as his running back.
Yeah.
He wasn't putting up those numbers, but he's still finishing top 10. So like they're still gonna feed him. And Jerry Jones, who's running that team, has came out and said it's gonna be Zeke's team. Like this is Zeke's offense. And I think Tony Pollard is very good, but I think he's gonna be utilized very differently with this team. I think if they do running back wise, it's going to be a 2-back set where they're both going to be on the field at the same time. So I like Zeke there. I just have him right outside top 10. But like I said, he's fully capable of being 10. I thought about putting him there over Najee, just because Najee's whole offensive line just worries me a little bit. But Zeke and the Cowboys, they've said over and over again that it's going to be his team, and I think, like you said, I think receptions will grow a little bit this year or be around the same. I don't think there shouldn't be a huge drop off. So I like Zeke this year. And yeah, it's so hard to put all these guys in the top 10. Cause like you said, I feel like there's a range for like, once you get to like 13, 14, then there's a pretty big drop off, but the guys kind of in between 5 and 14, you can interchange off and on with whoever you like there.
Yeah, I agree. And then like we left out like Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb. I think you can make a case for those guys even being there too. Like I said, between like 5 to 10, even 12, like you put them in a hat and you draw them out, you can make a case for any of them being in the top 10, like in anywhere like that. So
that's a lot of people are going to disagree with us with not having Aaron Jones in here. People are like, he's the best player on the team. They're going to do this. I just don't think that's their like Green Bay's motto. I don't think that's how it's going to go. So, like, if I'm wrong, I probably will be. I just don't think Aaron Jones.
I think the argument for people that want him in the top 10 is when Devontae Adams was on the field.
Yeah,
that's where Aaron Jones' best game. And then the people like I agree with you. You have AJ Dillon back there, like he's going to get the ball more and more, and then. Like last year, you had Devontae Adams, and then when he was on the field, you had to kind of change that up. Now you have a whole offseason with Devontae Adams where you have these wide receivers having these like
you're going to develop different plays. Yeah,
you got to develop, and so it's not going to be Aaron Jones going off every single game. They're going to be able to stack the box. They're going to make another wide receiver beat them. If that's not Aaron Jones and will not Devontae Adams. Is Lazard going to step up? Who knows? I just don't think it's going to be Aaron Jones. Great running back, but I just don't see him there.
And that's what it is what it is. I cannot get on the Aaron Jones train. I don't know. He had a good year a couple years ago, but he's so inconsistent to where I just can't get behind that one. So, and then like you said, like Leonard Fournette's one people argue about. Nick Chubb's always Mr. Reliable. He's gonna get you 90 yards. He's gonna score a touchdown. But Kareem Hunt being there, and they're not trading him, so it's just a bunch of. There's always stuff in the air with them. So, and then you could
Mhm.
even argue like what we saw with James Conner this year, last year. It's
Yep,
just
it's true.
there's a lot of different ones that you can probably find in as a RB2. I think they're all going to be pretty good for you. So it's
Mhm.
just, but yeah. So that's our top 10, and well, next episode we'll be doing a mock draft. So make sure you check that out. But make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let us know in the comments what you think, and thanks for watching. Deuces.
See ya.